All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Amanda. I am with the Transportation Alliance team. Thank you for being here as part of our ongoing series of webinars for Massachusetts fleet operators as part of a grant thanks to Mass Development.
Yeah, sure.
Today, we're going to be talking about social media and doing an overview. This is the first of what will be 6 social media webinars led by Bridget Peary, who is on our communications team. We're going to be recording this meeting, and it'll be available afterwards on the Ride Local MA website. If you have any questions on that, please let us know during the presentation. And then if you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to engage and use the chat function, as well as, raise your hand and unmute yourself. We'd encourage lots of dialogue. So appreciate you joining. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bridget.
Thank you, Amanda, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. My name is Bridget Peary. I am also with the Transportation Alliance team and the Melwood Global team. So as Amanda said, this is our first social media webinar. It's going to be an overview, the foundations of different social media accounts and platforms, how you can best utilize them, and then we're going to go into more detail in future presentations. So let's kick it off. I wanted to talk about the impact of social media. So I know that many of you must have social media accounts, either for your business or your personal lives. Just a couple of quick fun numbers, the total world population, 7.5 billion people, and of that 3.8 billion total social media users. So clearly a huge presence and where a lot of your customer base is. And so we really want to make sure that we are using our social media platforms to reach those customers and grow your own business. Social media itself is here to stay. It grows every single year. People spend a lot of time every day on it. The average is 2 hours and 24 minutes. I know personally I am guilty of spending much more time than that on social media on a given day. So people are really paying attention in that space. And so it's really important that we try and reach people there by following some tips, which we'll cover today. So then we'll move on to the topics that we're going to cover. Today we'll talk about integrating social media into your daily goals, setting up your accounts on various platforms, creating engaging content, audience interaction, monitoring engagement, boosted posts, and scheduling. My best advice here is that as we go through the presentation, you think about which platform you're using currently or which you plan to use, and then really commit your time there to do it well. I don't recommend that you download every single platform today and try and do all of them. You might drive yourself crazy if you do that. So I think it's best that you really find one that you want to use and do your best to commit to that and do it well. So let's start with integrating social media into your daily work goals. So make it a part of your daily staff and management meetings, I would say, is the first step. I want you to think of social media, the platforms that you're using, as a megaphone for the messaging that you're pushing outwards. So when you think about it, on social media, you're probably not talking to your competitors. You're probably not talking to the whole world. You're really trying to hone in on the audience of your customer base and potential future customers. So think about that in your daily meetings, a few minutes, and just think about what you want to say to them. Incorporate that with your staff, try and throw some ideas around, and then make sure that you're sticking to that message. It could be a promotion that you're running, or say you just added more cars to your fleet. So think about what the news is and what's relevant, and then make sure you stick to that messaging for your audience. So the next thing then that I want you to think about is making sure that there is that one person who's responsible for posting content. I do not recommend that it's you. You guys have so much on your plate already. I'm sure your to-do lists every day are long. I don't want to burden you with thinking about when do I need to post or what should I post. I think it's a good practice to find one person within your company who also uses social media and has a good grasp on how to post on different platforms, and putting that person in charge. And so they're the one that's executing posting. So then naturally the next part of that is establish a chain of command for approval of the posts that you want to put up. So is there a person that is generating these ideas? They'll be responsible for posting. Who are they going to run it through to make sure that everyone gets the sign off and you're good to go and good to post? So make sure you're thinking about that as well, so that nothing gets lost in translation and all your social media posts go out. And then lastly, make sure that you're finding the audience that you most want to reach. So I know I've already sort of touched on it, but you're thinking about your customers and your future potential customers. What platforms are they most likely to be on? Think about that when you're choosing which social media avenue that you want to use, and make sure you focus on that social media account and you have the bandwidth to keep up with it. So with that, I think we can start going over each of our social media accounts, starting with Facebook first. Everyone knows Facebook, but it's important to think about your presentation on Facebook. So I wanted to make sure that I touched on two important pieces of real estate on your Facebook account. There's your profile picture and your cover photo. So typically I recommend for your profile picture, you are using your logo, your company logo. But then next is your cover photo, and I'm using A&A Metro as an example here. You really want to make sure that it tells a story so that when someone lands on your page, they know exactly what you're all about with that visual representation. So with A&A Metro's cover photo, A&A Metro is owned by Tom Arrighi, former TTA president. I can clearly see the skyline of Boston in the background, so I know where he is geographically. I can see all the vehicles at his disposal and all the services that he applies, or excuse me, offers. So I know if I'm going to his page and I'm thinking about getting a shuttle and I need that for an event that I'm doing, I can clearly see immediately, this is something that I'm looking for. This is applicable to me. So really think about both of those two elements when people go to land on your page. In terms of Facebook posted content, this goes for any platform, but with Facebook, you should pay a particular attention to it because Facebook doesn't have any limits for what you can post. You want to stay away from posting long paragraphs when you're thinking about posting content on your timeline, because people's eyes tend to glaze over if they're long paragraphs. So you want to keep your posts around 18 words. In order to increase your reach, you want to think about tagging different locations or people. That way you broaden your audience. And talking a little bit about the Facebook audience. So people usually go to Facebook for, a work-life integration. Some people get news there. A lot of it is some of it's entertainment, but mostly they want to connect with family and friends. So that's what your audience is looking for within Facebook. Some of the older generations are on there. I'd say 40 or older. So if that's where you think your potential customers or your audience is, keep that in mind when you're thinking about Facebook. If you are able to post every day, that is great. We also recommend at least 3 times a week posting. But just again, remember to keep your bandwidth available to you so that you're posting and staying relevant and reaching your audience. So I think then we can move on to Twitter. Twitter is very similar to Facebook, where you have your profile picture and your banner. Again, a few examples that I included here. There's the logo, there's a geographic reference in the cover photo, and some of the vehicles and services that the company provides. very easy representation if someone lands on your profile page. Here you have a couple of sentences underneath that so that you can you can display what your company is about and who you are. I'd keep it nice and short. Make sure that you include your website there and your location so that your audience is you're attracting the right audience there. So Twitter, there is a cap on the number of characters that you can share. It's just over 200, but as I mentioned before, you don't want to have your post be too lengthy, somewhere around 100 characters. The audience that comes to Twitter is looking for, more news stories, following up on events as things happen. It's a very active platform. So this is one, if you're thinking about using Twitter, you want to be posting daily your own original content, but then really making sure that you're engaging with other accounts or commenting on discussions, even if you're not directly mentioned, making sure that you're making yourself relevant within different hashtags. Twitter moves very fast. It's really for all age groups. So you just want to make sure when you're heading in that direction with Twitter that you have the capability to you have time to commit to that so that you're keeping up with the platform. So I think we can go on to Instagram. Instagram is much more photo and video based. So you have the ability to create your captions there just like on any other platform, but it really is about a visual representation of your company. So just with all the others, make sure your logo is there for your profile picture. You're including your website there, a quick sentence or two about what you're about, and you can start creating your own Instagram album. Some great examples for posts here. You're featuring a driver, a graphic for, drivers needed. Those would be some examples of good posts. You also have the ability to create stories on Instagram, which are they display for 24 hours, but you can also anchor them on your page so that anyone can go back and watch those stories. You can use Instagram, hashtags on Instagram to also broaden your audience. A lot of people find relevant content to them through hashtags, so I would recommend using them, but don't put them in your caption. I would put them in your comment section so it doesn't clutter it up. And again, not too lengthy for posts, about 125 characters. And try to be posting at least 3 times a week and using those stories daily if you can. I think we can move on to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a platform that's designed to be used for professionals, industry professionals. It's there to help facilitate connections with your industry colleagues. You can communicate with them directly here, post updates, news, job opportunities within your company, general information. This platform is more based on business and focused on business and less on the more social interactions that other platforms use. So you have space to work with here for posts. I would still recommend keeping it up to 25 words, posting at least 3 times a week. And you just really want to make sure you use this space to display who you are, as with any other platform, including your logo, making sure that your banner reflects who you are as a company. You have a lot more room in your about section to talk about who you are. So this is a good platform, again, to connect with your industry professionals. Moving on to TikTok. So TikTok is a newer platform that has really taken up a lot of space in the social media realm. It is videos. Think of it as a feed that you can just scroll through an endless loop of different videos, different content. The audience here is skewed mostly younger, but I myself use TikTok. I see all generations on the platform. but I think it's that quick ability to scroll through, it keeps people hooked. So it's a fun platform where you can share interesting content, short videos, and you can reach a lot of users that way. So with any other platform, again, make sure that you're, displaying yourself correctly with your company logo, your website, so that anyone that lands on your page knows that what you're about. Your posts here can be short. Not many people do read the posts, the text on your post. They're mainly interested in the video. So I would keep that nice and short, but make sure that you use hashtags, because that will directly link you to audiences who have similar interests to what your business is. And so I want you to think of TikTok too as more of a fun platform where you can share content. So I know, and I believe Jeb Corey is on, but he has the wonderful Captain Cab working for him. And so as I was thinking about how I was going to talk to you about TikTok, I was envisioning Captain Cab and, in some TikTok videos of him about town, or helping people cross the street, or, waving to people out and about. So it can be fun content like that, or it could be something, maybe you have a quick update. You installed a new safety feature for your company in some of your cars. It could be informational as well. But quick little videos, and you can get a lot of views and traction there. Moving on to YouTube. So I wanted to make sure that I mentioned YouTube. It's not so much as a social media, you're not going to interact with a lot of people there, but it's a really good platform for you to anchor your videos in. We use it for the Transportation Alliance for all of our webinar videos, different videos for conventions in the past. And that's where, all of our videos can live online, so that we can easily embed them in other places and where we want to use them. So if you don't have a YouTube account and you do have a lot of videos for your company, I do recommend creating an account and making sure that they live there so you can easily share them. So yes, that is YouTube. Let's move on to creating engaging posts. So if you want to improve your chances of getting your message out there, you obviously want to create engaging content. So a couple of quick ways to do that. Number one, using images and videos whenever you can. Oftentimes people glance over a lot of text, but when there's the visual element there, they will stop and want to engage with your content. So try to use photos and videos, especially on Instagram, because that's very, very much a visual platform. Try to keep your posts short and sweet. I know I've said it a number of times, but it's really, truly important. Make sure you're being timely. Are there current events that are happening in your city or town? Are there holidays that are coming up? Post about them. Wish your followers happy holidays. Share any sort of local news. I do recommend creating a content calendar, so that you don't find yourself week to week always having to think of things, but rather build out a calendar so you can look to the future and already have some content generated, so it's not so burdensome and always trying to come up with different content. Make sure that you're using hashtags. I know I've mentioned that for a couple of different platforms, but they really are important for audiences that are following along with a specific topic. Try to create conversations with your audience. As I've said, some things can be informational, some posts can be more lighthearted. Is there a topic you think that your audience might find engaging? You could create a poll. It can be something as simple as chocolate or vanilla ice cream. But really try and bring them in on popular topics, and excuse me, facilitate that dialogue. And then lastly, make sure that you're posting at the right time. So the next couple of slides, I'm going to walk through when we're seeing a lot of engagement across a couple of different platforms. So when you're thinking about posting, you want to make sure that you're sticking to the times of day when there's a lot of engagement and a lot of volume there on social media platforms. So we can start with Facebook. The darker squares, as you can see, is when there's a lot of engagement. So think about what you do first thing in the morning. You get up, you look at your phone, maybe you check your email, you check social media accounts. People tend to check in the morning, but the more heavier traffic is going to occur late morning, midday, early afternoon. So that's, and as I would like to point out here, the middle of the week. So your Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's when a lot of people are paying attention. That's when you really want to make sure that you're posting, because you're gonna get the maximum amount of engagement when obviously most people are on Facebook. Instagram follows a very similar trend, midday or late morning, midday, middle of the week. The very same thing for Twitter. So just really keep that in mind when you're planning out your posts. And we'll actually talk a little bit about scheduling posts later in the presentation. So I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to recap, listing out all the different platforms. Facebook is where people are going to see their friends and their family. Twitter is more news and current events. Instagram, very visual, very photo, video heavy. LinkedIn is for your industry professionals, and TikTok is more focused on entertainment and video, and quick hits there. And so just to recap what we recommend posting, at least 3 times a week for most platforms, once a day if you can do it. And then making sure that you're keeping your posts, the word count, short and sweet, nothing too lengthy. So I also wanted to talk about what some good examples of social media posts are. I didn't want to just send you out there and say, go ahead and create some content, but to mention a couple of things that might, spur some inspiration. So one of the best ways to do this right is pretend you are the editor of your town newspaper and your newspaper is your social media. So when you're thinking about what you're going to put in your paper, think about what you think is going to be most relevant to your audience. You could share, employee of the month, a driver profile. People like that personal connection and putting a face to your company and like I said, making it personal. When your drivers are out driving around, is there a recognizable place in your city or town where people, they see that, they say, hey, I go to that park all the time, and there's that driver. If you have reviews for your company, you can make very simple graphics, highlight what people have said, good things about your company, share that to your social media accounts. I think I've given this example in the presentation earlier, but are there new safety features that you have incorporated into your business? Are there new cars that you've added? Make sure that you're sharing that. Your audience is going to want to hear that. So now I want to talk a little bit about audience interaction, because this is a very important part of it. Did someone post on your wall? Did someone message you, direct message you? You want to make sure that you're responding always and every time to that. Your audience will want to know that they're being heard, and they are more likely to stay engaged with you and following you if they can expect a response and interaction. And try to remember too that it's not just them that's seeing it, it's other people who come onto your page. So even if one person doesn't directly engage with you, they can see this company is very responsive. They like to make sure that people are being heard. So it makes a really good impression when you do that. Now, of course, the ability for people to comment on social media is a double-edged sword. We all know that there's a lot of negative things that can happen in the comments section, but there is a way that you can deal with it and make sure that you're still you're still portraying a positive interaction on your end, even if the person is being quite nasty. So if someone is commenting in your section, they're leaving a bad review or they're complaining about something, again, I do recommend don't ignore it, don't delete it, but you do want to respond. You can respond to them directly and say, thank you for reaching out. Try and move them off of the comments section, offer to deal with them directly so that it's not like an argument out in open air. But try to address the situation politely and quickly. Don't be defensive, but really show that, again, your customers, even if they are complaining about something negative, they're still being heard. And again, don't ignore the problem, because it's never good. But when you do come across that, I think those are some helpful tips to make sure that you're still dealing with the situation and hopefully resolving it. So let's move on to monitoring engagement. You want to make sure that you're paying attention to how your posts are performing. Different platforms have their analytics in different places. Facebook has their reportings under page insights. On Twitter, it can be found under analytics. But you really want to pay attention to how your posts are performing. Is there a topic that received more engagement than other topics that you've posted about? Is your audience more active? Are they responding more to something you've posted in the morning versus the afternoon? So as I mentioned, that's really your window there where you want to post. Late morning to early afternoon, but sometimes audiences can be very specific, and you just want to make sure that you're paying attention to that detail so that you know when you should be posting and when you're going to get the most response for your posts. So I think I mentioned it before, but it's really important that if you can't be posting at any time during the day, it's really helpful for you to schedule out your posts. Facebook has a way of doing that. You can write up your post and then set the time that you want it to go out. That way you're making sure that you're sharing your content and you're not missing a couple of days where your audience doesn't hear from you. You also have the ability to boost your posts, which will expand your audience. You can get really specific on Facebook to people who have similar interests, people targeted in a geographic area, so that it's a good analogy to compare it to fishing, right? So you have a post that you want to get out to your audience. You're not going to throw your post, aka a net, into an open ocean and just hope that you catch your fish. You want to make sure that you're throwing your net in a very specific part of the ocean where your fish are going to be. So boosting your post is one way to do that, so that you're really targeting the audience that you want to reach. And lastly, I just wanted to offer, we've worked with many clients on their social media accounts. The Transportation Alliance is one example. We brought from a couple hundred followers to 18,000 followers on Facebook. We have a lot of experience looking at social media platforms, whether it be any of the ones that I just mentioned. So if we can be helpful to you, if you want a social media audit, our team can review your accounts and offer some recommendations. But I wanted to make sure that I offered that as a resource, so that, if you guys have, you want a second set of eyes on it, we're here to help you do that. So I want to move on to questions now. Of course, if you think of some later, you want to shoot a question over, the email there is for you at your disposal. But I wanted to open it up here now for us to have a discussion. I just want to say lastly, social media is huge. And so you really want to make sure that you're dedicating your time there, and that you're keeping up with it and you're remaining active on your social media channels and interacting with your audience. So let's get started with some questions. I know that we had some pre-submitted questions. So I think it would be a good thing to start there. One question that I believe I saw, we have seen some great success with Facebook pages and groups. What other Facebook resources would you recommend? Exactly those, the Facebook pages, the groups, making sure that, you're posting regularly, use the stories there on Facebook. If you're even able to, you can broadcast live. Say you're doing a quick tour of the facility. You could say, hi, it's so-and-so. I'm walking around and saying hi to our employees. The good thing about going live with Facebook is that it sends a notification to your followers that, hey, you're live right now. So when that notification pops up, they're more likely to check in with that and see, hey, what's going on with them right now. Another question that I know was submitted: how does one determine ROI, cost effectiveness of social media programs? So for return on investment here, it's a little bit, there's a couple of different steps to it. So for ROI, it's what you're investing into your social media posts, similar to boosted posts, as I said, and what you're getting in return for that, what new business you're bringing in for the money you've spent. I think if you're able to track if your new business is coming in from your social media accounts, that's a good way to monitor that. But if it's not easy to keep track of new customers that are coming from social media, then I wouldn't recommend looking at it with the ROI lens. I'd recommend looking at it as the cost per click lens. So say you wanted to take $100 and boost a post, and you ran your boosted post for a week, and you had X number of engagement. Facebook especially is going to tell you how much of your money went to specific people clicking on your post. So a target for that would be around $1 or under $1 if you can get it. So per click, you're spending $1 of that money that you put down, $1 of that $100, and you're getting engagement for that. So that's the way that I would look at investing and boosting posts, making sure that you're not spending $5 to try and get someone to click on your post, because that's just not worth your money. I think another question was, can you use social media to reach potential businesses, business to business commercial clients? I would say absolutely. You can use your social accounts to do that. Think of it as being in a room with lots of other people and other businesses. So do you have a specific ask that you're approaching another business with? Is it more of a private conversation, or can you turn it into something fun, a partnership that's public, where you can tag them and say, let's do this together? But you can definitely use social media in that way to connect with other local businesses. Amanda, were there any other comments that are not comments, but questions that we've submitted so far? Otherwise, I have an exercise that I thought I might want to try out, but I wanted to give a chance for anyone else who had a question to be able to ask it.
Yeah, I think we should open it up for questions now. If folks want to unmute themselves and have anything that they want to ask Bridget. If not, I can run through a couple that have been submitted. All right. So we got one question about how much should I spend on a social media campaign?
Great. Yes. So very good question. It's really what you want to start out with if you want to test out your audience and see where you want to put your dollars. So I think I mentioned a minute ago, $100 campaign boost. That's a pretty middle of the road dollar amount that you can use to boost a social media post, particularly on Facebook. You take that $100, you set it for a week, you set your audience, and you see how it performs. If you're finding that you've had a lot of engagement on it, maybe you want to up the amount that you're spending on it. Maybe you want to do it more frequently. As a note, try not to run your boosted posts over the weekend. People don't usually tend to pay attention to a lot of content on social media on the weekend. So I'd stick to Monday through Friday and investing your dollars there. And then when you see what your cost per click is, if people are really responding to it well, then put some more money aside and run that campaign again, or put more towards it.
Awesome. Thanks, Bridget. We've got another question here about what should I use to create graphics?
So easy, quick graphics. There are a few online websites that you can use. I know that Canva is a really great platform where you can easily put together very simple, clean looking graphics. A lot of the websites you can pay for a membership that allows you to have a lot more customization and features, but even the free versions is what you need to get the job done. I don't expect you guys to become designers. So using something like Canva, where it makes it very easy to pop text into a graphic or a photo, and make it presentable. That's a good resource for you to use for that.
Great. Do you want to do your exercise and then I can do the other questions?
Yeah, I think that would be great. So one thing I wanted to make sure I asked is, after this presentation, are there platforms that we talked about today that you're now interested in creating an account and using? So I'm gonna go around the room, but Jeb, maybe can I start with you? Was there a platform that piqued your interest today that you would be interested in using?
Hey, Bridget, how you doing?
Good, Jeb. How are you?
Good. How everyone else? Well, I kind of liked your idea of using Captain Cab on TikTok.
Yeah.
It just means I need to get in better shape. That's the problem. Captain Cab, he's been in hiding because I'm not in the greatest shape anymore. But if I can get in better shape, I think it's a good idea. We use all these different social platforms with mixed results. Facebook, I think we're a little bit more active on than the other ones. Twitter, we kind of dropped off of that, really. We didn't really have much luck with that one. Instagram, we used a little bit, but kind of sparingly. And then, we looked at Snapchat when that was real big, but never really got into it. And like you said, now you got TikTok. And I think if you can create a fun, engaging platform, I think that probably, in my opinion, right now, where TikTok would be good. But this does take it does take a lot of time and energy to do that stuff. And you guys made some really good points earlier where, once you do these platforms, you really should be committed to it. You need to stay on top of it. And I recently put together a team here at our office that's taken over a lot of this stuff for some of our other company divisions. And so that's a huge help. There's no way I'd be able to do it by myself, because it is very time consuming, and you either need to have some in-house help or outsource it to somebody else. And we've tried that before too, outsourcing to some people. And that can be tricky. That also takes a lot of time to stay on top of it, because they don't know exactly what's going on with your operations. So that can be a challenge at times also. But yeah, TikTok's, I think that may be interesting. And if I get in shape, we'll throw Captain Cab on there.
That's terrific. I hope Captain Cab makes a reappearance. I do miss him. So yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's a very fun element that I think would be a draw for a lot of people. So thank you for that.
Yep, thanks.
Let's see who to go to next. Joe Rubino, is there a platform that you've found that you've used a lot, or one now that you're considering about utilizing?
I'm on, I use Facebook for personal reasons, and I'm on LinkedIn for business reasons, but I just have a website myself. I don't use social media to promote my business, but I do encourage all of my consulting clients to use it. And that's why I asked the question about business to business use, because I just see, and you gave a great answer, by the way, a lot of partnerships you can do. Some people think in terms of business to business as just how can I generate more calls to my company? But if you are a transportation company and you have maybe a local hotel chain that has 2 or 3 Marriotts in your area, you might be able to do some kind of a joint venture around an event where you could partner together, provide services, build goodwill, build more business for both of you. So that's the kind of thing. I always look to see how businesses can help improve each other. And I think social media is a great way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. No, thank you for submitting that question. I do think it's a good one. Because often, you are thinking about reaching your customer base, but there's room there also to talk to other local businesses in your area, and it puts you again in front of your audiences. There's a partnership there. There's 2 local businesses that
Well, the thing is this: if you could develop a partnership, for example, well, let's say there's 3 Marriotts in Lowell, Massachusetts. I'm going to make that up, okay? But let's just say there was, and you develop some kind of a partnership with them. You can promote that partnership on social media. Well, then what would happen is you would have your customers know more about Marriott, and Marriott's customers know more about you.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you could basically enrich each other's business because you're both dealing with tourists and business travelers. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of.
Absolutely. I see a hand raised. John, is there?
I know, because I just, Joe makes a great point, and I also want to say, like, Bridget, I know a lot of you guys, but for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm John Boyd, and I work with Bridget. And I just wanted to say that Bridget's her analogy of think of yourself as the hometown newspaper is really apt, because think about how many times you open up your city's newspaper and you read it, and then you move on with your day, right? You don't take any action whatsoever. And then the 50th time you read it, you say, oh, look, there's you could say, we got to go see this new movie. Oh, look, we got to go go to this new restaurant. You take action, but it takes those 50 times of getting used to it, and then you take action. And so, so the ROI is not necessarily always immediate, but it's about building trust, building brand, and reaching out to new audiences. So I just want to say that because something that Joe said really spurred that, and I thought it dovetailed nicely with what Bridget had talked about. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, John. No, I think that's exactly right. It's a good point that you might not see, and it's why the ROI might not be an effective tool for your social media if you're trying to get exposure out there, because it might not always show up right away. But one good metric, as I mentioned, the cost per click, that is more of an immediate way that you can see if your audience is engaging with you. But no, thank you, John. That's a really good point, that sometimes it might take some time. And the more that you're putting yourself out there, the more that you are becoming recognizable for your audience is when you're going to get even more engagement, because people know you, they can recognize you. Amanda, is there any other questions, or can I pick on someone else?
We do have another question here about what are some examples of videos you would recommend for a fleet to post?
It's a good question. I think I gave some examples. If you added new safety features, I know that over the course of the pandemic, which thankfully we are finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But in the beginning, there was a lot of emphasis on cleaning measures. And I saw a lot of companies, do quick videos of how they're keeping their cars clean, how they're going to keep their riders and their customers safe. So content like that, what are you doing to make sure that your customers have the best experience when they get a ride with you? Something as simple as, the interior of the car, what the experience is gonna be when that car comes up to the curb to meet them. If you wanted to highlight your drivers and put a face to your company, this is so-and-so. he's been with our company for X amount of years, and he would love to come and give you a ride, and hey, he'll pick you up a coffee and you know, have it ready for you when you meet him. Things like that. A quick tour of your facility, something quick and easy like saying happy holidays. So simple things like that, I think, would make for good video content, and really putting a personal touch on what you're putting out there.
Great. And then last one I've got here is you talked about hashtags a lot, but can you get into a little bit more of what actually is a hashtag and what's it do and why is it important?
Yeah. So hashtags, the way that they're set up, that is the pound sign, immediately preceded with no spaces, a word. So the hashtags are a tool to keep conversations that are of the same topic clumped together. So say the Super Bowl is a great example of that. So for all the posts around the Super Bowl, people watching it, reacting on social media, they'll use that hashtag Super Bowl, whichever number we're on, I forget now, but and I am a football fan, I promise, but they'll use that hashtag, and so you can see that thread of posts of everyone who has used that hashtag for that topic and everything everyone's saying. One of the best examples for this, and something I did myself, was the halftime show with was it Jason Derulo or whoever the artist was, but he gave this very entertaining halftime show, and everyone on social media was using that hashtag halftime show to talk about it. And so you got audience people from all over the place who otherwise wouldn't be connected, but because they were all talking about the same thing, they were all there together. They were all seeing that same content using that hashtag. So when you're thinking about using hashtags, you can use, as I just gave that example, a hashtag that's centered around an event like the Super Bowl or a holiday or a place, or you can use a hashtag taxi, hashtag shuttle, and people who are paying attention to that conversation. Maybe there's someone out there who's looking for a good company for their wedding and they need a shuttle, or so if they're paying attention to that conversation and you use that hashtag, you're going to put your posts in front of their eyeballs. So think of it in that way, sort of two facets, right? Keeping relevant to things that are happening, and then making sure that you're present in those conversations for your business when people might be looking for your services.
Great. I don't have any other submitted questions, but if folks want to unmute themselves and ask anything that you haven't asked yet, or Bridget, if you want to keep asking people about what they're using.
I have a question. Can social media be used somehow to build a relationship with traditional media? In other words, we have one TTA member in Buffalo, New York, who he uses social media, and he also gets a lot of regular media, and he gets interviewed constantly on TV. And I don't know that one are connected to the other, but I just know he has both. So I'm just wondering, is there any natural way, organic way, to use social media to try to increase your presence on legacy media, traditional media like TV, radio, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's a crazy question or not, but I know this about social media, but I mean, obviously you want eyeballs, and there's a lot of eyeballs on traditional media. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that is a good question. So there's a couple of different ways that you can interact. All news, traditional media also have social media accounts. So they're broadcasting and they're going on air every day, but then they're also sharing those clips to their social media accounts to reach their audiences there and to encourage the interaction there, because someone can be sitting in front of the TV, but there's no interaction there with traditional media and their audience over the TV. There is on social media, so they like to use those platforms to engage their audience. So if there's a news story that you see them putting out that you want to engage on, I encourage you to do that. That way you're building that relationship on social media. If they're reporting on something that is relevant to your business, absolutely share it, and add your commentary to the conversation. Sorry, John, you have your hand raised. You're muted, John.
Sorry, I was just going to chime in, but please, but go ahead and finish, Bridget. If or did you have something else you wanted to say about that?
No, I was rounding it out there, but I think just taking the time to engage with them on that. If there are events going on that you otherwise would be commenting on, like say there's a local downtown get together, the news is going to report on that, and you can engage that and say, we're going to be there too. We can give you rides. And a lot of times local media.
That's the kind of thing I was thinking, or like things like New Year's Eve, there's a warning, the Channel 4 puts out a warning. The police department wants to warn about drunk drivers. Well, bingo, you can dovetail into, well, our company gives free rides home and blah, blah, blah. I mean, you just take an opportunity that the media is giving you a story, and then you use social media to dovetail into that to promote your company. That's the kind of I was thinking.
Yep. Nope. I think that's exactly right. And, local media stations will engage back because they're very responsive.
Yeah, and Bridget, if I may, Joe's question is a really excellent one. And it's really apt for this discussion because we're talking about all of these different platforms. And so reporters, like the weapon of choice for reporters is Twitter. It's not like they're more likely going to, like a reporter is going to be more likely to engage with you or follow you and be interested in what you're saying on Twitter. They're not going to want to be, they're not going to be that interested in connecting with you personally on Facebook because they're like, well, I'm not your friend, I'm your local reporter, right? So that's where Twitter could be more effective, but again, you have to kind of choose when do you want to be connected with that reporter. If you open your Twitter account today, and then you say, oh, I'm going to tag, and by tag, I mean, it's different than a hashtag. It's using the @ sign.
Yes.
Which when you write, like my Twitter handle is @JohnBoyd. So if Bridget writes a tweet that uses @JohnBoyd in it, I will get a notification saying, Bridget's just mentioned you. Mm-hmm. But so if I'm a transportation company and I open up my Twitter account today, and then I say, okay, I'm going to tag, Bob Jones, the local transportation reporter. He'll get a notification, but then he might look at my Twitter account and say, well, what's this? Like, there's nothing on it. Like, you're not telling me anything interesting because it's a brand new account. So my advice would be, don't tag them immediately. Put some interesting, if you're going to use Twitter, put some interesting content on there and pontificate about what's going on in the transportation world in your city. Thoughtful analysis, make it punchy, make it, like full of conviction, I guess. And then when you tag that reporter, they're gonna, that Bob Jones, the reporter, is gonna say, wow, they actually have some interesting stuff that they're saying. So now I want to follow them. Mm-hmm. And then the very last thing I'm going to say is, like, there's actually, because I know we talked about TikTok in the beginning. So even though TikTok is not something that your reporters are not necessarily going to be interested in like following your TikTok account, but it depends kind of on how crazy or frankly viral you get. Everybody wants a viral video. It's impossible to pre-plan a viral video. It's anathema to what a viral video is. But if you remember, a few months ago, all of a sudden the entire world was talking about sea shanties. I don't know, does anybody remember this one? Sea shanties were like these 4 guys posted like an 18th century or 19th century song on TikTok, and it was beautiful and wonderful and fun, and all of a sudden the entire world is singing it, and every media outlet, major media outlet in the world kind of covered this and was like, what is going on with sea shanties? Point being, like, there could be, you know, I think that there's uncharted territory or untapped territory for the transportation industry on TikTok, that the media might start to pay attention to, as long as it's interesting and funny and kind of irreverent. So
Thank you, John.
thank you.
I know that we're running up on time, so I just wanted to offer one more moment if anyone had any other questions, but say thank you all for joining us today and for tuning in, and please, if you think of anything, reach out, send us an email if we can take a look at your accounts and be helpful in that way. Please take advantage of that as well.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining. And we will see you for our May webinars. All right. Thank you.